Today, we need to talk about a really critical new report from the Media Rights Agenda. It paints a pretty stark picture of what it's like to be a journalist in Nigeria right now. And really, this whole story, it starts with just one number.
86. Just let that number sink in for a second. What on earth could it stand for?
Yup, that's 86 documented attacks in just 1 year. This all comes from this powerful report called The Reign of Impunity. And as we get into the details, you'll see just how tragically spot on that title really is.
So, the heart of this report, the main theme, isn't just about the attacks themselves. It's about what happens after the attack. Or, more accurately, what doesn't happen. It's about a complete and total lack of consequences.
I mean, just look at the scale of this. Out of 86 separate attacks, not a single one has led to a successful investigation or prosecution. Zero. That is the literal definition of impunity. It sends a message loud and clear that you can attack the press and get away with it.
And the MRA's executive director, Editane Ojo, he puts it perfectly. He's saying this isn't just about denying justice for crimes that have already happened. It creates this climate of fear that actually encourages future attacks and forces journalists to think twice before they publish a story. It leads to self-censorship.
So, okay, we've got the headline number 86, but what does an attack actually look like? What are we really talking about here? Well, the report breaks that down for us.
And what's really striking is that the most common tool used to suppress journalists isn't always what you'd think. Almost half of all incidents are arbitrary arrests and detentions. It's a tactic designed purely to intimidate, to disrupt their work. Now, of course, direct physical violence is still a massive problem, right? It accounts for almost a quarter of all the cases.
And you have to remember, behind all these percentages, there's a devastating human cost. We're talking about 2 killings documented in the report, a kidnapping, a whole media outlet being completely shut down. So this isn't just about isolated incidents. It's a whole system, using everything from physical force to legal tools like twisting cybercrime laws or even using spyware to track journalists.
So, this all leads to the biggest question, right? If nobody's being held accountable, who exactly is getting away with all of this? The report follows the data, and it gives us a very clear and very disturbing answer.
The data leads to a pretty staggering conclusion. The number one perpetrator, responsible for nearly half of all attacks, is the Nigeria police force, the very organization meant to uphold the law. And when you add in the Department of State Services, or DSS, you find that state security agencies are behind more than half of all of these violations.
And this is where you see this deeply troubling paradox. Not only are these security agencies the main attackers, but the report also points out that they consistently fail to protect journalists when they're attacked by other people. Sometimes they're even present at the scene and do nothing, so they're failing on 2 fronts.
And geographically, you can see the problem is concentrated right in the country's centers of power. Lagos State, the economic heart of Nigeria, and the Federal Capital Territory saw the most incidents. This is happening right where the country's most important decisions are being made.
So, faced with such a bleak situation, what's the solution? Well, the Media Rights Agenda doesn't just diagnose the problem, it also lays out a really clear path forward. It's a set of concrete recommendations for the government.
Their call to action really comes down to 3 things. First, and this is the big one, investigate every single one of these attacks and do it transparently. Make the results public. Second, issue a clear order to all security forces to stop the harassment and the arbitrary arrests. Just stop. And third, be proactive. Build a real national plan to protect journalists with things like early warning systems based on global standards.
And that last point is so important. This isn't some new radical idea. The United Nations already has a whole blueprint for this. It's called the UN Plan of Action on the Safety of Journalists. MRA is basically just asking Nigeria to adopt these established international best practices to solve a crisis that's threatening its own democracy.
So after going through all this data, we're left with one final, pretty profound question. This report, it's not really just about journalists. It's about the public's right to know the truth. Because when the very institutions designed to protect people become the main threat to those who are seeking that truth, the entire foundation of a free society is at risk.